Good morning! Welcome to another Quarantine Cuisine. I'm Alicia Rye. It is a beautiful 100-degree day here in Southern California. So I thought, what better than to make a hot beverage so we can be nice and cozy this morning and have it with our treats. So today we're going to make something that you've probably seen on TikTok or elsewhere on the gram. It is whipped coffee is what it's called, or dalgona coffee, I don't know. We call it beaten coffee. So I looked this up because I was so confused as to how this had gotten into American stream of consciousness. We have been making this coffee, and I mean we as in like my family and Indians in general, for years and years and years. I mean, my grandma would have been like 98 this year if she lived, and she had been making this her whole life. In fact, I didn't know that coffee in its like watery Starbucks form even existed until high school. This is just how I always drank it. This instant coffee concoction that's delicious and sweet and creamy. So I'm going to show you how we make it. It's a little bit different from maybe how you've seen it on the internet. I actually looked up, I was like, where did whipped coffee come from? Like, who was the first, And it was like, it started with this TikTok from this girl named Hannah. And I'm like, Hannah did not invent this. Grandma didn't invent this. My great-great-grandma maybe invented this. Anyway, when I see it now everywhere where it's popularized and trendy, people are like, oh, I use this fancy like instant blend. And no. You use this is like Great Depression coffee. Like this cup of coffee should cost you 25 cents. So I use Nescafe. You can use any coarse coffee that you like. See how the crystals are like kind of coarse? Because those are the ones that are gonna whip the best. I feel like I've been using Nescafe for my whole life. Like I have fancy coffees. I have like 20 fancy coffees in my cupboard and I barely use them. So I'm just doing a quarter cup of that. And then I do an equivalent amount of water. Some people like hot water. I just use whatever water. Oh no, it's not dirty now. Hang on. And we're just gonna do an equivalent amount. You don't need any fancy sugar. Remember, it should cost you 25 cents. Ah! Whoa. Clean that up later. Okay, equivalent amount of sugar. Is this all going in 1 cup? Absolutely not. This is enough to last for a little while. And the nice thing about this stuff is once you whip it, you can put it in a little airtight container in your fridge and you can keep it for, I use it like all week. Okay, there's that. And then traditionally, you can use either like a whisk and whisk it by hand forever until your hand falls off. Like sometimes it can take a really long time. If you have like one of those mini frothers for cappuccino, you can use that. Frothy. I just use this. I put my whisk attachment on my very non-fancy blender, and I whisk it up like that. But one thing I do, and my kind of secret ingredient, is that I put a couple of spices in it, and that is how we make this coffee. So I do cardamom. If I had nutmeg, I would put that in. Actually, we had like a little family reunion on Zoom this morning, and we always have used Zoom pre-quarantine for that because most of my family is all over the country and all over the world. England, India, Georgia, everywhere. And we were talking about it this morning, and one of my uncles was reminding us that his mother, or telling us about how his mother used to make this coffee, and it was so good that the local restaurant was trying to always get her to make it for them and pass it off as theirs. I don't know if that's true or not. But she would use a lot of nutmeg in it, and that was what gave it the flavor. Sometimes I use cinnamon too, but whatever spices you want. Don't just leave it bland like they do like Hannah does, And then you just whip it. Oh no! It's okay, it's morning. I'm still gonna change. There we go. And you can whip it more or less than this depending on what your preference is. But this is pretty good for me. Right there. And you can whip it if you want, like usually on the videos I've seen, they whip it to like a pretty stiff consistency. And then what you do is you just take it, pour some into a cup, Have your milk ready. Pour it in there. Nice hot milk. It's really beautiful in the trend videos because it's like milk on the bottom and a dollop of this on top. But how do you drink that? You just drink it and like you get a bunch of foam all over your nose and milk in your mouth? That's gross. So you want to stir it in there a little bit. Stir it in. So it's this delicious foamy drink. And it's so good. Hannah did not invent it. And the trick is the spices and stirring it in. And there you go, that is beaten coffee. And it's so good and delicious. It's so nice and warm, which is good because I have AC on. Thank God, very lucky for that. Thank you so much for joining us in Quarantine Cuisine for our little beaten coffee fun. I hope you have a good day and I'll see you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe.